Hello, and welcome to the 20th episode of ProShip ParcelCast. Our title and theme for our 20th episode is All Things Amazon and the Tech Changes That Matter. I am your host, Jerry Dixon, and I manage the Alliances program here at ProShip. Today, I am here with Justin Kramer and Dan Scott. Hi, Justin and Dan.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do here at ProShip. And let's start with you, Justin.
Yeah, Justin Kramer, one of the co-founders of ProShip. I've been doing this for over 2 decades. In the process, I've worked on systems that'll ship as much as 3 million parcels per day. I've worked on systems that have run across 4 continents. And not only have I done that, I've now moved into sales and marketing to help share all of the information that ProShip has learned over the last 2 decades of deploying. Dan?
Yes, I'm Dan Scott. I am the manager of R&D. I have been with ProShip for just under a decade. I started out in our support department, and then I moved into R&D, and I've been responsible for creating, maintaining, and helping others maintain many of the solutions that you as a ProShip customer, potential ProShip customer, use today.
Awesome. Let's jump right into it. Amazon. Amazon has been at the forefront of change in the retail and delivery space for many years, but we want to take a deeper dive into 2 areas that will affect users, vendors, and competitors of Amazon. So let's chat about Amazon as a carrier and also the technology changes that Amazon is requiring of all of their partners. But just for a bit, let's focus on some acronyms and definitions first. Dan and Justin, in order to set up the framework for our discussion today, why don't you give us more information on the definitions and acronyms we are talking about?
And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to prompt Dan here. We got 3 categories worth of stuff here, and we're hoping that as we go back and forth, it will help you understand these 3 categories. And the first one is the Amazon program. Yeah. Dan, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure can. So the Amazon programs or Amazon logistics programs are quite literally the programs that Amazon offers to their customer base for using Amazon's logistics operations within your logistics operation. So there's 2 main ones. There's Vendor Central and Seller Central. You might have already heard these terms in working with your Amazon reps. Vendor Central, to start, is an invitation-only first-party program where you as a customer of Amazon sell your items in bulk to Amazon for them to fulfill. Seller Central, on the other hand, which is the more common one, is a third-party program where you as a customer of Amazon sell directly to consumers who are going on the Amazon.com website to place their orders. And that's more often what we will see customers using. Like I said, since Vendor Central is invitation only, you're only going to hear about it and be involved with it if Amazon reaches out to you and says, we want you to be part of this program.
Excellent. So Vendor Central, Seller Central. Next group of definitions, fulfillment methods.
Yeah, this is the kicker. So as we're getting into this, you're going to hear that Amazon has a lot of terminology and a lot of different acronyms. So that's why we wanted to start with the definitions. So getting into the fulfillment methods, there's 2. FBA, or Fulfillment by Amazon, and then MFN, or Merchant Fulfillment Network. Start with FBA because it's a little bit easier to kind of wrap your head around. It's one that, again, we don't see as often. That's where you as a seller pay Amazon to store your item in an Amazon fulfillment center and then have Amazon fulfill orders on your behalf. So it kind of sounds similar to the Vendor Central program. It's not necessarily the same thing, but it does have some corollary there. As far as we're aware, Justin, I don't think any ProShip customer is using this fulfillment method, but that's not to say that they can't. It's just that more often than not, we see the MFN, or Merchant Fulfillment Network. That fulfillment method is where sellers ship from their own warehouse or DC or business unit, and everything flows through you. And Amazon's only part of it is the actual placement of the order. So again, kind of similar to how Seller Central works. So there's some synergies there between the fulfillment method and that program. What I want to make very clear, though, is that neither FBA nor MFN are an API or a logistics program. They are quite simply a fulfillment method. So if you hear those terms being talked about by your Amazon rep or by a ProShip representative or engineer, know that most likely they're talking about the fulfillment method, not about an API or a logistics program that Amazon offers.
All right, I'm gonna sum up here. We'll move on to the last group. So we've got programs including Vendor Central and Seller Central. We've got fulfillment methods including Merchant Fulfillment Network, MFN, and Fulfilled by Amazon, FBA. And now finally, we're going to get into the Amazon tech stacks.
And again, like the first two categories, there are two items here underneath these Amazon software stacks. So the first one is the MWS, aka the Marketplace Web Services. Like I said, Amazon does like to use their acronyms, so you'll see those often. The Marketplace Web Services is a SOAP-based web service tech stack, if you've ever heard the term SOAP. This tech stack provided functionality for MFN and other Amazon logistics functionality. That tech stack is going to be deprecated quite soon. In fact, as of this month, the MFN functionality is going to be deprecated. And we'll get into that a little bit later and what that means for you. But the overall MWS for public application developers for Amazon is going to be deprecated at the end of this year. So that technology stack is being deprecated in favor of the other tech stack, which is the Selling Partner API, or SP API for short. That's a REST HTTPI based tech stack, if you've heard the term REST. That provides the MFN functionality, the other Amazon logistics functionality, and it also offers the Vendor Central functionality, which was not previously available in MWS. So if you are a Vendor Central customer, that is the technology stack that you will be using to power your logistics operations with Amazon.
All right, final summary of all of these different acronyms. So for the programs, we have Vendor Central and Seller Central. For the fulfillment methods, we've got Merchant Fulfillment Network, MFN, and Fulfilled by Amazon, FBA. And finally, for the tech stacks, we've got Marketplace Web Services, MWS, which is being depreciated, and Seller Partner API, or SP API, which is the new go forward. Is that all correct, Dan?
That is all correct. And you'll be hearing these terms throughout the rest of the podcast. We're referring back to them when appropriate.
Excellent. Jerry, let's throw it back over to you.
Thank you for that. This will help me as I maneuver through trying to understand all of the terms. Regarding Amazon, Prime Day was probably the biggest one ever, according to experts. So everyone is wondering and watching, will they become a national carrier? And what do you see coming next from Amazon in the logistics space?
Yeah, so one of the most important things is, as we look at the Amazon tech stack, we know that the SP API, that Selling Partner API, is now capable of creating an Amazon carrier label. Okay, so now we have a means of third parties producing the deliverable documentation for Amazon as a carrier. We know that Amazon, since late 2019, has been piloting throughout the country, at least throughout North America, been piloting actually acting as a carrier. So when we put all this together, all signs point to Amazon being able to rotate into being a national carrier when they choose. Now, of course, they still need to work on a lot of things that they do. Their time per delivery is supposed to not be very good. Maybe they need to clean up their tech stack a little bit. And of course, because what we're talking about is people shipping with Amazon as a carrier, things that they sold either on their own website, in another marketplace, things of this nature, there's probably some other input-output methods, some sharing, data sharing that needs to get figured out. But the reality is that we should probably expect 5 years from now, Amazon in many countries will be a viable additional carrier.
Absolutely. And the other thing to note for that is that as of right now, we haven't seen them go away from their relationships with the national carriers, with UPS, with FedEx. They're still available, and the SP API still does produce those labels when it determines that that is the appropriate carrier to use. But as Justin alluded to, and you can definitely back me up on this, Justin, if you want, we are definitely seeing some of those relationships start to wind down a little bit.
Yeah, there's that wind down, and there's also that opportunity that Amazon may cherry pick lanes that they want to deliver to and be able to pull Maybe they're not going to immediately overnight going to be a all 39,000 postal code US carrier. Maybe they're just going to choose 1,000 destination postal codes. Okay, so there's a lot of room for Amazon to make some choices here and impact delivery capacity as we understand it in small parcel.
And because they have such a large footprint with their fulfillment centers, they could spin this up regionally or locally. They have the option of piloting in a smaller area to see how it operates and then expanding that out. So they have got a lot of flexibility with what they're doing.
Yeah, and understand none of what we're talking about takes into account anything that Amazon might be doing outside of North America.
Okay. So if I am a ProShip customer, I have been receiving emails about the changes to Amazon. So we want to dive just a little deeper into those changes that have prompted those emails. So I'm going to ask a few questions and maybe you guys can help me.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is going away and what should everyone migrate to?
All right. So I'll take this one. So there's two parts to this answer. So from the Amazon side, the thing that's going away is MWS, the Marketplace Web Services, like we were talking about before. That is going to be deprecated. I mentioned this month being the deprecation of the MFN functionality. Quite literally, on July 31st of this year, Amazon is deprecating the MFN functionality. I cannot make that any more clear or stress that anymore. There are other parts to the MWS that are going away at later dates, but they aren't really relevant to how ProShip integrates with Amazon. The important piece is the MFN.
And let's remind our listeners, the Amazon MFN one, that was a SOAP-based API, which we're trying to replace with the,
yeah, I was going to say the MWS, and that's right.
MWS, yeah, there we go. See, we're already making the mistakes. Yeah, so the Marketplace Web Services, the SOAP-based API, is going away, especially for third parties like ourselves,
yeah,
and must be replaced by the Selling Partner or SP RESTful API. Is that correct, Dan?
Exactly. And that's what we're migrating to. So the other part of this answer from the ProShip side is that we have a selling partner solution. We quite literally call it the Amazon Selling Partner Solution, mostly to make sure that we're kind of aligning with the terminology and names that Amazon uses, because that selling partner is going to be the premier solution for Amazon going forward, at least until they decide to change things again, which who knows. But for that, as a customer of ProShip and Amazon, if you're currently using what we call the Amazon MFN solution, which may have been a bit of a misnomer, you should be migrating to our new Amazon Selling Partner solution, which has the capabilities of using the SP API to both ship Vendor Central if you're a Vendor Central customer, or Seller Central /MFN if you're a customer using that program and that fulfillment method.
And this works for everybody. This probably includes if your IT staff has done this inside your own WMS, your IT staff needs to make this change right now as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
July 31st is just a few days away. Okay, why is this change important to not just customers, but to Amazon and to ProShip?
So primarily for Amazon, we're talking about a modernized tech stack, right? Anyone who's familiar with the term SOAP, if you are a little bit more technically inclined, know that SOAP is, in technology terms, not necessarily ancient, but definitely getting to the point where it's not really the premier way of going about creating a web service or API.
It's passe.
It's very much as passe. It's still around, but it's getting to be on its last legs. So for Amazon side of things, this was about taking their functionality and migrating it over into a new modernized tech stack, which is, like I said before, it's RESTful. If you've ever heard the term REST, if you're technically inclined, essentially what that means for Amazon and kind of by extension for customers is that you have a more maintainable, more secure tech stack that also has some best practices around it that maybe weren't in place with a SOAP-based web service. A RESTful web service, or should say RESTful API, has some common conventions and common standard best practices that are used whenever you are building one, that you can refer back to, and there's plenty of documentation online. You go Google for REST API and a whole bunch of results will come up. If you do the same thing for a SOAP web service, you're going to get all sorts of different results. So that's from the Amazon side. From the kind of ProShip and customer side, because they're kind of in same kind of concern, is we have to migrate. Amazon is going forward with this. They're turning off the only other option that we have to actually connect into their systems, into their backend, to their logistics operations. We don't have a choice. So we have to move forward with it. But for the reasons that I mentioned before about why Amazon is migrating, customers will see, and ProShip will see the benefits of that going forward, because it's going to be that one-stop shop for everything Amazon shipping.
Okay, it seems like such a dramatic change that they're making. Do you think it should require an engineering point of view or maybe reviews to get the best result?
I think you would go even farther, not just a point of view, not just a review. You should definitely engage with a ProShip engineer to get your system upgraded to use the new solution, to get yourself set up for that. I, in fact, have heard some stories already from some of our engineers in professional services who've been working with customers right now to get them migrated over. And there's been a couple, I wouldn't say challenges, but maybe little hiccups here and there, that having a ProShip engineer around to help out and guide you through the process is paramount, absolutely paramount.
Yeah, and Dan, I want to add to that, because many ProShip customers have taken advantage of our CI/CD process, where for years they've never had to worry about any changes to the ProShip solution. And we've talked about the fact that we've had 3 breaking changes in 20 years. Well, this is our 4th breaking change. This is such a dramatic change on what we're doing with Amazon, that this is only the 4th time in 20 years that we need to stop, look at what you're doing with the system, and make code changes and possibly data translation changes in order to ensure that we're using it properly. So the rest of the time, the CI/CD process has made all of these updates seamless. And once you've switched from the old marketplace web services based engine to the SP API based engine, you will be back in that loop again without any need to touch your system when Amazon makes the next change.
Exactly. I was also going to say that if we're kind of focusing right now with this answer on existing customers who already have ProShip, who already are using or have used the MFN solution, or now we're trying to migrate you to the selling partner solution. But even for new customers who don't yet have a relationship with Amazon or are starting to go there, it still would be helpful to have that engineering perspective from the ProShip side, because we've been working very diligently with Amazon to try and figure out a lot of these different things, because just from the terms alone, you have these 6 different terms, right? I mean, that's a lot to take in and understand, okay, which pieces are which and how do I interact with that? And to be frank, the Amazon setup process is a little bit clunky.
Less refined?
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Suffice to say that while it does offer that security that I was talking about before, and is very much the kind of the de facto standard that you see nowadays for any large scale API for one of the kind of the big companies out there like Amazon, it does mean that setup can take a little bit longer. It's a little bit less easy to understand, especially if you're not technically focused. So having that ProShip engineer with you during that, regardless if you're a new or existing customer, is definitely going to be very helpful.
Yeah, I've got to say that even though it's nice that a lot of carriers are putting out these APIs that a lot of technically inclined people can integrate into things, there's still no replacement for years and years of working with particular types of services, as well as having a group level contact with somebody who is just learning to be carrier like. So even though Amazon has had their own logistics, it's very different having your own internal logistics than extending those logistics out to several hundred companies and now acting more carrier like rather than retailer like.
I mean, look at how long FedEx and UPS have been around, and they're still trying to figure certain things out.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, will this affect the fulfillment methods, or will this affect operations in my warehouse?
It's a good question. As far as we know, no. The short answer is no. The fulfillment methods, those again being MFN, Merchant Fulfillment Network, and FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, shouldn't change. Like I said, they're not APIs, they're not programs, they're just fulfillment methods. As far as operations within your warehouse, again, there's kind of a two-part answer where from a functionality standpoint, right, from an Amazon operation standpoint, when you're shipping Amazon, if you're shipping MFN today with our ProShip Amazon MFN solution, it essentially is going to work similar to how you're going to operate with the selling partner solution. The difference is going to be the internals of your ProShip system and how that works and how you get connected into that selling partner solution, how you send shipments to that solution. And that's, again, going back to the previous question, that's where having that engineering perspective from ProShip is very, very important. It's not necessarily a large change, at least from the outside looking in, but there is going to be some things that will have to change in your ProShip system. But once it's in place, it should be pretty much the same as you've seen before.
Yeah, operationally, meaning from the picker, packer, shipper person in the warehouse's point of view, there should not, or there is a very small likelihood that they're going to have to change anything. Now, why that's important is because should not, even if we're at 99%, there should be no changes. That 1%, as Dan mentioned, that's exactly why we engage a service engineer to make sure that if we do have to make a change, we change it in a way that will have the least impact to your operations. And again, we're only talking about a 1% chance you're going to see that operational change anyway.
It's very small. The point being that Amazon wouldn't have any incentive to make such a broad sweeping change within their technology stack, and then also at the same time change how operationally it works.
Yeah.
You might see some differences potentially in, okay, how quickly do I get a label back, right, between MWS and SP API, but we're not talking about, oh, I suddenly no longer have access to ship my orders in, Arkansas or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
or
that.
you have to put them in a different box.
Yeah,
you have to
exactly.
You have to put an additional label other than the single label that comes out from the carrier. If anything, there might be a positive impact on the operations, which we'll talk about in the benefits section once we get there.
Okay, you guys have mentioned it before, but I'm going to ask one more time. When will I have to make this switch?
Well, if you haven't already, I mean.
Well, we have a lot of customers who are in process right now.
Yes, exactly.
And their deadline is
July 31st.
July 31st.
Of this year, not next year, not the year after, 2022, July 31st. Yeah. That is when MFN functionality is being deprecated out of MWS and officially migrated to the SP API.
So if you're listening to this in August of 2022 or later, it's already past due.
Okay. So do we anticipate Amazon making any additional API changes which will require a change in ProShip?
Not at this time. And I say that with the caveat that with this particular change, to be honest, we were a bit blindsided by it. Amazon, being the size that they are and having the footprint that they do, they have the option, shall we say, of making these changes and not necessarily giving any sort of alternative to vendors like us, which is both a good and a bad thing, right? From obviously it makes things a little bit more challenging for us, and obviously it means, sometimes changes are required. But from a good side, it means that we know we're not going to be dealing with 15 different Amazon APIs or web services. It's just going to be the one. So it's not all doom and gloom. There's definitely some positives around that for sure.
And I'm going to qualify it a little more from a product standpoint. We do not expect any further breaking changes. However, we hope that Amazon continues to improve this such that there will be changes that improve operations, improve speed, add functionality, but those should not be breaking changes like this change is.
Yes. So in point of fact, I'm not going to say what exactly yet, but we do have some information from Amazon recently regarding improvements around their label generation. If you've heard before, the label API that Amazon has, Selling Partner API, can be a little bit slow at times, and they're working on improving that. And there's definitely some movement on that. I can't share too many details yet, but that is something that is definitely going to make those processes much, much smoother.
Okay, Dan, so we're coming back to do another podcast pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so this switch is a requirement.
We'll definitely send out notices, I think, for that,
Okay.
because that's a pretty big thing. I know some of the customers that we integrated for the Vendor Central program who were using the SP API at the time definitely brought that up as a concern, and Amazon listened, and they're moving forward on solutions. And as soon as we have those solutions in play and they're generally available, that's definitely something we want to let people know about.
Okay, so we know this is a requirement, and you have alluded to this just a tiny bit earlier, but are there any benefits to this?
Beyond what we've already said, the big thing for me, for my team, is that we actually have a better visibility into how Amazon works within this space, within logistics industry. We have, where we didn't necessarily have it before, we have contacts who are actually working within these programs and operating these fulfillment methods and developing these new tech solutions, this new Selling Partner API, and being able to access those folks directly and get answers out of them has been a huge benefit to us, trying to understand what exactly is going on. Previously with MWS, it was pretty much all through support cases, and we weren't getting a real person. It was very clinical, and it was hard to get answers on a quick basis.
Well, you just mentioned one of the advantages has already come from that greater communication.
Yeah.
And that is that we know that compared to even some other APIs, the label generation is slower than what we would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And as Amazon has taken this feedback, it would be really nice for our operators, those warehouse operators, not to know which carrier or what API it's being shipped through, because that label takes twice as long as any other label to come out of the system. And then the other one I love about this is with the marketplace web service, the throttling mechanism was documented, but it was very unclear what triggered it, how the algorithm was deployed, such that companies could operationally figure out how best to leverage the orders associated with that. Because when these things throttle, all that speed out of speed, compliance, and support just goes right down the drain.
Exactly.
And it's because the Marketplace Web Services API was never intended to be used by 1,000, 2,000, 100,000 package a day shipper.
Yeah. Basically what that means is that when you are making requests to these APIs, the organization that owns these APIs, in this case Amazon obviously, can determine a threshold for when you stop making requests and they no longer accept it. Because these systems, even though they're very large scale and very robust, if you're sending in tens of thousands of requests in the span of a minute, to them it looks like a denial of service attack, for example. Yeah. And then that can degrade performance of their systems for not just you, but for all Amazon customers. So like Justin was saying, now that we have a better understanding of that and that documentation is more clear, you can use that to your advantage and plan out your daily shipping with Amazon. For example, you can say, okay, within this hour, I know I can get 500 shipments out the door. And then the next hour, again, 500 shipments. And I'm just using that as an example. It's not the exact amount, but that's the idea of you can stagger those things a bit better, and you're not necessarily worried and going, oh no, am I not going to be able to ship in the next minute for this very important package that I need to get out?
Yeah, again, that's what we're saying. Operationally, we can help a lot better determine only release, X orders per hour to prevent the throttling from occurring. We've whiteboarded out that in the past to try to help our customers with the older API. This one makes it so much easier. Mm-hmm. And because the thresholds are already so much higher, it's as if they understand that they might have a 100,000 parcel a day shipper use this. It's already a better operational experience all the way around.
Yeah. And last but certainly not least, I've said it before, I'll say it again, sorry for sounding like a broken record, but more modernized, more secure. Those are big things. I mean, everybody wants them. Everybody wants modern technology, secure technology, especially in this day and age when more things are moving online. And with the pandemic and people shipping a lot more, Amazon obviously taking up a lot more of the retail market and all that. It's definitely something to acknowledge. So.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that many benefits. Okay. We usually like to wrap it up by asking, what's the bottom line here? So what's the bottom line here, gentlemen? Any thoughts that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I'm going to say, if you haven't started already on the process to get migrated, immediately talk to your ProShip CSS rep, talk to your Amazon rep, get that going now. Because if you don't, you might not have access to it in a week's time or so.
I just want to sum up lots of different acronyms that we were throwing around today, lots of different conversation. Customers should see this as a market improvement in the rollout of Amazon services. Customers should also understand that Amazon's ability to become a carrier is not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when and where. Okay, I really do think that we're not going to see a global rollout or a national rollout. I really think we're going to see a rollout by lanes. This is just my personal opinion and the way I'm seeing them do some of these pilots. That's probably what we're looking at. It's not an if, it's a when and where.
The win. Okay. Well, thank you both so much. If anybody wants to learn more, please visit us at ProShipInc.com. And for current ProShip customers, please reach out to your customer success specialist to ensure that you are prepared for these changes. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you have any questions, just a reminder that you can reach ProShip at sales@ProShipInc.com or call 800-353-7774. We hope you join us for our next ParcelCast. Thank you and enjoy your day.